Hi folks, it's Adrienne and Michael.
Hello.
And Michael Merino is from?
Merino Legal.
And I'm Adrienne Klein from Azure Real Estate and Property Management, and we're both licensed and insured in the state of Florida. Today I want to talk about one of my favorite four-letter word, and it's not love or Wolfgang Puck, it's mold. So why is mold so important? And I'm going to tell you a very quick story, and then Michael can interject and tell you where the story led. And you know, it was something like out of Indiana Jones, the way it took off a life on its own. So what happened was, being in property management, we got a maintenance work order put through our online portal system from a tenant. Owner lives out of the country, and there's water leaking. Okay, so we go and we take a look at it, and instead of calling a plumber, we don't call a plumber at Azure. We call mold experts that have mechanisms that can go like a colonoscopy in between the walls without tearing apart, a video cam, thank you, without tearing apart the wall and making a big hot mess. So I'm going to let Michael take it from there to kind of give you a little idea of what transpired from a little water leak from maybe the people upstairs.
Right, so we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Lost Temple of Mold, or something like that, right? Where we have this major, mold problem that was created, and we have an international client who is the owner of the property, and we have a tenant, of course, who, like most tenants, when they see mold or they hear about mold, it's used as a mechanism to get out of paying or to get out of...
Like a weapon, like a weapon.
It is a weapon
right.
that they use, and as a lawyer, working in South Florida, mold is absolutely a four-letter word. It's one of those things that when a landlord calls me and tells me that his tenant has complained of mold, right away the alarm bells go off. We right away, danger, we need to resolve it immediately. We need to get the tenant out of there to try to limit the liability as much as possible, mitigate the risks to the tenant, and of course, lessen the ultimate exposure and liability for the owner.
So what do you do if it's not happening in a house and it happens in a condo? So where do we go from there? So because those tenants were super nice, they're still living there years later. But what happened to a few little drops? How did it escalate so fast, and then it really never came to a complete resolution because it was very hard to get in touch with the people where they were located. But I'll let you tell the story.
So basically, when you have someone who, in this situation where a leak is coming from the upstairs unit, for example, and the upstairs unit belongs to somebody who lives in Venezuela, who owns the property through a company, and maybe they live there and maybe they don't. And that's where it becomes a problem, is to stop it. And you mentioned a home versus a condo. Well, yeah, there's a big difference. With a home, at least we know that we can isolate the problem, we can deal with it easier. But when it's a condo, the question always, where is it coming from? Is it coming from the common elements of the condominium, in which case it would be the responsibility of the condominium association, or is it coming from another unit, in which case we need to figure out what unit it's coming from and who's liable for the problem. And again, this is something, if you have a leak coming from one unit and it's dripping down into 4 other units, again, it becomes a problem for multiple parties, and it's like a domino effect. It's a mold domino effect, is what it is.
So is the condo association responsible necessarily, because it's a condo?
Well, again, they could be, and that's really the issue. It's like anything else. If a leak is coming from a toilet that belongs to unit 101 or 501, let's say, that's dripping down into the other units, the responsibility will belong to that unit owner. If the leak is coming from a pipe that serves various units, that would be a common element, meaning that it would be the responsibility of the condominium association to resolve that problem, and ultimately the liability of the condominium association, they would be liable for any damages or problems that emanate from that particular leak and that particular problem.
So is mold common in Florida?
Mold is very common in Florida, but here's the other thing, is that there's mold everywhere. There's probably mold in this room that we're in right now, but there's different types of mold, right? There's black mold, which is the worst, and that's something that is very scary because it can cause health problems and cause some major liability for an owner. Whereas you have other types of mold that they're mold, but they're not toxic. They're not going to kill you. So this is why it's so important, as Adrienne mentioned at the beginning, is we don't call a plumber, we don't call a handyman. We call a mold expert, someone who has access to a lab that can give us get samples and tell us what we're dealing with. You know, and very important to have that immediately.
This is not something where the tenant caused this. This is something that was caused out of anybody's control.
Right, right, exactly. But it ultimately, again, if you have a tenant, the tenant says, "Hey, I went to the doctor and they said I'm sick from mold." I mean, well, we got a problem. We got to resolve it. We got to do everything possible. We have to be diligent about it and fix the problem as quickly as possible, so that, you know, again, if somebody makes some sort of a claim against the owner, you know, we can at least tell a judge, if it comes to that, hopefully it never does, that, you know, we did everything possible to mitigate the risks and mitigate the damage, and we acted in good faith.
So if there's a water leak, I think to wrap up today's segment is, if there's a water leak, as a property manager, jump on it quickly and just send a very quick email to Michael and say, hey, this is happening. It might not be something, but I just kind of want to cover myself. And then we can take it from there. So I just want to thank you for visiting with Adrienne and Mike, and we'll see you on next segment. Take care.
See you online again soon.